Good morning, everyone. We're live here behind the scenes at Your Teen, and today we're going to talk about money. It's a hard topic. Even saying it makes me feel a little uncomfortable, but we've had some questions, and I think a lot of us wonder how to, pass down our wisdom or lack of wisdom to our teens and our kids about spending money and budgeting and managing it. And I think it's also in some ways even a more incredible challenge now when so many things are virtual, where they have Venmo or they have automatic deposit if they have a job, or they can buy things online like the rest of us. And so I think it's really so tempting to just do it without thinking about how much something is costing and how you keep a budget and all of those things. So lots of questions. And I'm just going to start by saying that I'm not sure that we in our house have really done a great job at any of this. But I guess we've tried to share two things with our kids. And one of them is just to really pause before you purchase. My husband and I have this joke that anytime we get this great idea that is going to cost a significant amount of money, we always say, well, let's put this on the table for 10 days. And if we still remember it in 10 days, then we'll go back to it. And I will tell you, it has saved us a bundle, because I can't remember anything. But even when I could remember things, we kind of would come back and realize, you know what, I don't think so. So we have shared that with our kids. But the flip side is, I admit it, I am probably one of the cheapest people out there. I hate spending money. I don't spend money. I've been wearing the same clothes now going on, I can't even tell you how many years. It's kind of a joke in our house when I get like new socks or something. It's like thrilling. But I do tell my kids, that if there is something, I don't, but if there's something that I really need or want, I'm willing to spend money to get what it is that I want. So it's that kind of dichotomy between, quality and quantity, or, making sure that you make a good purchase when you make one. So those are the things that we've talked about a lot with our kids. And it's led to, some really interesting conversations, particularly with my daughter, when it comes to, whether she's going to get a certain brand of something and what, how much that means to her and, whatever. So that's it. So I'm going to pass this along to Mindy.
Thanks, Jody. Similar to what you said, I don't know that my husband and I did a wonderful job teaching our kids about finances. But it's interesting to me because our youngest, we have three boys, and our youngest, maybe it's ingrained. All my kids were in sports, and we would, of course, buy them when they were younger, the equipment they needed. And one day I go out into the garage. He's in about 7th or 8th grade, and he's taking down old lacrosse sticks and baseball mitts, and of course, I think he's donating them or throwing them out. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm selling them." I said, "You're selling them?" He said, "Yeah, I'm selling them." And I was so caught. I was like, "But wait a minute, I bought them, but you're selling. Are we splitting the money?" And I can't remember what we did at that point, but it couldn't have been anything too major, because a couple of years later, he's in high school and he's playing sports. And he loved, I would make homemade chicken breasts, with breaded chicken breasts, and he loved chicken salad sandwiches. So every week I'd make a bunch of these chicken breasts, homemade, cut them up, make chicken salad. Every day I'd send him to lunch. Every day I'd send him to school with a homemade chicken salad lunch. Amazing. Come to find out, through one of his friends speaking, he was selling half of that sandwich to a friend who loved it. And I was like, okay, very entrepreneurial. But where does this come from? My husband and I are more savers. And I remember again thinking, well, wait a minute, I'm buying the chicken. I should get half. Or I said, should I make him a sandwich and we'll sell it? He just blew me away. And for him, it was an opportunity. So a part of me today, even today, as he gets older, he buys and sells sneakers. I guess you'd call him a sneakerhead. He's a real kind of entrepreneur. Did not come from my husband and I. So I have no idea. I guess my answer is I have no answers, and just amazed that sometimes I think it's ingrained. They do what they, are born to do. So that's my money advice, which is basically nothing. So therefore, I will send it down to my friend, Eka.
Good morning, Mindy. That was a great story, especially because I know him. So my story is that, a personal thing is that when I was growing up, at some point, my parents said, it is now time to go out and get a job and pay for everything yourself. Well, it was awesome because now I had money, and I had this job. And so now they kind of didn't have any control over what I was doing. And so they must have wondered why I was working so many hours, but I wasn't. I was saying I was going to my job. I had money for gas, so I could go anywhere. And I was going over to my friends' houses all the time. So because of knowing that, then I had a completely different way of raising my own children. I wanted them to work, but not so much that it was that, that they were using it as a way to go out. I didn't want them to quit their sports because they wanted to work. So what my husband and I did is we decided, I think at age 10, they would get $1 for every year that they were. So a week. So for instance, when they were 10, they'd get $10 a week. And then they had to basically pay for everything out of that. And they also got paid the same day that my husband got paid. So it was payday for everybody. And from that money, they had to buy, like if they went to the movies with their friends, or they went out to dinner with their friends, or they wanted something more than, like if it was, they wanted a toy that we weren't going to buy. So that's how we kind of did it, because we wanted them to still have their after school activities and their extracurriculars, but yet still have money to be able to kind of be a little bit independent. And then they would put all their birthday money and Christmas money that would actually go into savings, because we said we gave them enough money. So that's what we did, and it worked. One's a saver, one's a spender. We did it exactly the same. Like Mindy said, I think it's just the way they're built. And that's what we did, and it worked for us. Okay, I'm going to send it above, like the Brady Bunch, to Sharon.
Thanks, Eka. I'm smiling because I was thinking the same thing, that kids have these inborn money personalities. I have 3 kids, and I think they all have really different personalities. One is a real saver, and the other 2 will sometimes try to borrow money from that one, even if they're older than that one. I have one who's kind of an entrepreneur, who's dabbled in the sneaker resale like Mindy, which, my teenagers are young teenagers, so I had to be involved in this because they don't have credit cards and stuff. So they would ask if I could get in line on my phone for these sneakers. And it got so complicated also with allowances. I would owe them allowance, and it got so hard to keep track of because I wasn't as organized as Eka, and I didn't have a payday. So I would lose track of how much I owed people. And then I'd have to sit down for 20 minutes and think, when was the last time I gave them their allowance? And what are all the things they said, Mom, can I have my money in the store? So I finally got an electronic system, which is like FamZoo. And that comes with a debit card for my oldest one too, which has worked out great. So if he meets up with friends, he can use that debit card, which is actually his money from his allowance. And he can spend it, when they go out and get lunch or whatever. And I guess that's my bottom line, is that the allowance has worked well for us as long as I didn't have to keep track of the administrative stuff. The FamZoo does it automatically, and it's so much easier. And that's where I'll leave things. I will go to Emily.
So I feel like a lot of the comments resonate with me. My husband and I both had jobs in high school, and I would love for my high school senior to have a job, but I feel like when he was a younger teenager, he was too busy with sports and he wasn't really allowed to do a lot of things. Then there was a perfect job, but he needed his driver's license and he only had his permit. And then came COVID. And so he was ready to drive, wanting to work, but we, the parents, did not want him to work at Target or a grocery store or a fast food place or any of the likely teen jobs. So I found a food bank that was very safe and very small. And he and I went there once a week over the summer, and we compensated him for that time because he took the initiative and applied to several jobs online, and we basically said, no, even if you get those jobs, we're not letting you do them right now because we don't want you bringing that into our house. So we were in a fortunate position to be able to do that, but that was kind of our compromise. As far as the entrepreneurial, I have one kid who is very entrepreneurial. He and his friends built these bucket cars out of big Rubbermaid bins, using a screwdriver to put them on their skateboards, and then they were driving them around we live across from the elementary school parking lot and big ball fields, and they were pushing each other around them, and the younger kids got excited. So apparently they ended up charging them for rides to the local ice cream shop, and they came back and customized their bucket cars by putting Uber signs on them. So that was their neighborhood little kid Uber thing. And then as far as the middle school phase of wanting to have the name brand and certain things, we often do that for holiday gifts. But it's not like an extra unusual purchase, but we would often do that as a holiday gift. And with Sharon, yes, on the allowance, my kids still talk to me about how much allowance I owe them because I could absolutely not keep up with it. So I think I should check out your FAMZoo because I've totally failed at that. But I wish that we had a more structured finance education plan for our family, but it is kind of just something that has evolved as the kids have grown up. So, and then one final thing we did for my son's 17th birthday, we gave him a small amount of money to invest so that he could just get some experience with that. And so he did some research, and he's keeping track of that. And I also think there's some virtual stock market games that kids can do now. When I was a teenager, you only had to do that like with your econ class in school, but I think that there are ones that they can do if they want to try their hand out with it without any risk. So that is my long rambling addition to this conversation. I don't know who hasn't gone. Jessica? Oh, Jen?
I have no great stories like the rest of you guys. I'm going to be the boring one today. I'm like, oh, these are really fantastic stories. If my kids are doing any of this entrepreneurial stuff, they are really keeping it on the down low. But I will tell you a couple things that we've done. First of all, the thing that we disagreed about the most, I think, as parents is whether or not to tie chores to allowance. I think that's a big issue. And a lot of times co-parents do not agree on that. So we've had to compromise a little bit on that one. But what we ended up doing is opening up some accounts for the girls, or we have two teen girls, that are custodial accounts of ours. So we can see what's in it, but they can also access it on their phones with an app. And we agreed on a certain amount that they would get for a monthly allowance, and I set it up as an automatic deposit. That way I don't have to keep track, and they just get it. And the benefit to it to me is that when they do want something, I can say, that's what you get an allowance for. You know, if they're like, I'm going to go to the movies, or I want to go out with friends, like, great, that would be a great thing to spend your allowance on. And I have one who's a spender and one who's a saver. So I can always tell without looking at the account number which account belongs to which kid. That's pretty easy. So those are kind of the two strategies that have probably helped us the most. But now that they're getting older, we do need to have a better conversation with them about saving and spending, and also maybe investing and those kinds of things. And I think that is an area in which we're not alone in being woefully inadequate. I think that is nationally a problem. If you look at how many adults are in debt, we didn't get good education either. So I don't have great answers on that, but I do have my eyes on it as something that we need to definitely work on with our kids. And now I'm going to kick it over to Jessica.
All right. I don't have, well, I guess I have a couple stories. I'm not necessarily the greatest person with money in general, but on the flip side, I also don't spend a lot of money because the only things that I care about purchasing are food and video games, and the video games are only for like birthdays. But when I was in high school, I wanted to go on one of those school trips. My school wanted to do like, all right, the Spanish kids are going to go to Spain for a trip in the summer, and I was just like, yeah, that sounds great. Hey, parents, can I do that? And not fully understanding like, hey, that is a lot of money. So my dad made me agree like, all right, but you need to get a job, which, you know, I'm 16. I fought him every step of the way. I did not want that job. I did not enjoy that job, but I think at the end of the day, I'm glad that I had the job in a weird way. I was not expecting to, and of course, I didn't do extracurriculars. I didn't do a lot of fun things after school. So it ended up being, you know, school, then to work, and I would fund any video games that I wanted on the side, and I would save as much money as I could for any possible trips that I wanted to try to take. And you know, I still don't think I fully get the value of money. I'm not necessarily great at budgeting, which again, I don't want a lot of things, so it works out. But I don't know, being forced to get that job when I was 16, I think it did good things for me. I guess, is Sue the last person up?
I am. So everything everyone said, I was chuckling at. It's just so entertaining to hear. First of all, we all start out by saying we didn't do a good job. So I will jump on that also. But I want to be an ECAS family because I am turning an age that, like, it would be a really good allowance for me. So ECA, can I be adopted? That's my first question. And then I have the kids in my house who spend everything that's given to them. Like they just get the money and go to see how they can spend it. And then I have the kids who literally put it away in the bank and have amassed like a ridiculous amount of money over the years. And it comes with all sorts of personality traits. Like one of them is struggling because he doesn't know how to spend the money well. And I mean, it's just so funny how money, it's such a big issue in our life. But the same kid who doesn't know how to spend his money, this is my favorite story. When he was graduating high school and cleaning out his room, he found an envelope filled with checks. I've probably shared it before because I see Jen responding. So I'll just share it one more time. Anyway, they were checks that were from his bar mitzvah. So that was a good 5 years earlier. And he wanted to know how he got the money now. This is a really smart kid too. And so I said, well, yeah, unfortunately, those checks go in the garbage. So he said, can I call the people? And I said, yeah, no, that's not happening. Unfortunately, you're just out the money. So that's the same kid who doesn't value money today in that way of not spending it, like not really spending it a lot. And then I have another kid who in high school wanted to go visit a sibling who was studying abroad. And we said, yeah, of course you can. You just need to make the money, which was like the shock of all shocks for her. And she got a job, made the money. And I think, you know, really, she might not agree, but from my perspective, it changed her relationship with money because you're much more cautious when, you know, for good and bad, you're more cautious when it's your money. I always felt that way about kids who paid for college. Like I paid for law school. I did not pay for undergrad. But in law school, when the teacher canceled the class, I was like, hey, is there going to be a makeup here? Like I paid for this. And everyone else is like, woohoo, snow day, you know, whatever it was. But when it's your own money, you are much more invested in getting value for that money. And it's so exciting to see Lori. So we're going to share what Lori has to say. Oh, that is so nice, Lori. Yay, Sharon.
Oh, that was from our holiday summit
Yeah.
when Jody and Jen and I chatted and we shared our 12 ideas. So maybe we can share a link to that article again for others who want to read it.
Lori's done all of them. Isn't that amazing? They're either done them all or they're done. Yeah. Thanks, Lori. We love having you pop in. Anybody else have any suggestions about money? Because frankly, I think these are all really great ideas. And the common theme here is that every family handles it differently and no one seems to think they do it well. So if I had a redo, I would give kids money and let them play around with it however they wanted to. I also we have an article that we share every year around Thanksgiving because one of my friend's family, the grandfather would give the kids a little bit of money, all the grandkids, and have them go into a room and determine how they would allocate that money for donations. And I always thought, like, what a beautiful like gift to give your grandchildren about being charitable, and also being able to evaluate which charities are the ones that are passionate, that you're passionate about. Anyway, okay, so Sharon just posted the article that Lori was talking about. Everybody have a good week. It was really good seeing all of you. Thanks.